What's going on, guys? Just like the video title says, we're going to be configuring Authelia and then OpenLDAP with phpLDAPadmin. If you've watched the latest release that I put out a few months ago, this is not going to be the same exact guide. It's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be introducing some changes that were brought to my attention from this person, Pentagrade. They just basically showed me how, because I honestly didn't know how to do this before they showed me, that you can do rule-based access to your websites. So if you only want some users to access certain websites and etc., this is going to be a great update for your Authelia setup. Okay, so let's get right into the installation. The first application we're going to be doing is OpenLDAP, just like last time. Of course, I copy and paste the application name. It's just the easiest way to do that. But for this, I'm going to be putting a -ex on there because this is an example application. I already have an instance of LDAP running. For this, we just have to replace that text that says replace me. I'm going to be replacing it with just read only, mainly because this account, the read only account, is not going to be active. This, I'm going to replace that with a super strong password. Make sure that you actually do that. Since this is an example, I don't really care. And then you'll see here, LDAP read-only user. This is not ticked. That's why I used a bad password for that, because we're not going to be using it anyway. Let's go to organization. I just go ahead and put home lab on there. LDAP domain. I put a subdomain of LDAP, period, myserver.com. And then that looks good. LDAP base domain. For that, we're just going to be putting. So this is where the weird naming scheme comes in. If you're not used to this, it's basically DC equals and then sections of your domain that you have up here. So this here first, and then this here for the second part, and then this here for the third part. And I'll show you guys how to do that. So for the first part, LDAP, because that's the first part of our domain, and then it's separated by a comma. Then DC equals the second part, comma, DC equals, and then the third part, which is just com. Go ahead and click next on there. And then for network, we're going to leave everything completely as is. Click next. Storage looks completely fine. We're not going to be messing with anything there. Click next. Security and permissions looks good to go. Next. Resources, I don't need to limit my resources for this, so just go ahead and click next. No add-ons for this one. That looks good, and you'll see the entire configuration right here. And then go ahead and click on save. Okay, so the next application that we're going to be installing goes hand in hand with OpenLDAP. It's just a GUI for OpenLDAP, just like how RUtorrent is a GUI for RTorrent. That's basically exactly what this is. So we're going to go ahead and click on install. Come up here, type that in, copy and paste as usual. Next, nothing there. We will be adding a environment variable here, and the name of that is going to be phpLDAPadmin LDAP hosts. And what that is that's just going to be linking phpLDAPadmin with our OpenLDAP instance, right? And the way that you get this second part, the value of it, is the linking applications internally script. So if yours is just named OpenLDAP, then you simply just do that, and then you click on generate, and then you copy and paste. But mine has a -ex on there, so I'm going to click generate on there. See that popped up? Go ahead and copy that, and then paste that here. And I'll also be including this in the description of the video as well. But I'm going to be leaving out the -ex because you guys should have just used the OpenLDAP. Go and click on next, next, next. You can enable ingress on this if you want to. It's totally up to you. Next, next, next. And here is the configuration. And then click on save. Alright, so it looks like these two applications are up and running. So now all we have to do is configure OpenLDAP with phpLDAPadmin. Click on the web portal, click on login, and then this is going to be a little bit weird, but we'll be typing in cn, because this is how we log in. This is how your login DN is going to be. cn equals admin, comma, and then what we had earlier, which is our base DN. So I just come over to my OpenLDAP configuration, and I'm going to copy that, paste that here, and then the password that you have set for your admin user. Okay, now that we're logged in, we're just going to click on this, and then you should see DC equals LDAP at the top. And then we're going to be creating a child entry, and then two generic organizational units. First one's going to be called groups. This is case sensitive. Make sure that you are using a capital G. And then the second one is going to be users. Exactly like this. Make sure you guys are doing capital G with S's at the end. And then within groups, we're going to be creating a child entry POSIX group. Going to name that all users. Oh, that looks a little weird. Okay, that was weird, but all right, there's our all users POSIX group. Now that we're done with that, we can go ahead and create some users. So you're going to be going to users, make sure it says OU users up here, and then create a child entry, and then generic user account. Click on that. First name, I'm going to do Bob. Ross, user ID. This is going to be the username that the user uses to log in. So if they want an email here, so if they're wanting they're wanting to log in with an email for whatever reason, they can do that. If they just want to use their first name, which is what I normally do because I only have like 5 users in my LDAP server, so I don't have any repeat first names or anything like that, so I don't have to worry about that. I just use first names, but it's totally up to you what you want to put in here. For password, I change this to SHA-256 crypt. It's just a assaulted version of SHA-256. Okay, and then just type in whatever password. And then we're going to have to assign this to all users. That's why we created that POSIX group first. Otherwise, it wouldn't allow us to create an account. And then here in home directory, this is a little bit tricky, but if there's any capitalizations anywhere in here, that means that whatever is in your user ID field, that user is going to have to type in exactly this. Meaning, if they typed in this instead, in their username field when they're trying to log in, it's not going to let them authenticate because it's expecting this exactly. So the way to get around that is to just delete the uppercase B and then replace it with the lowercase b. This is good because I don't want case sensitive usernames. If you do, then go ahead and leave it as an uppercase B, but that's totally up to you. And then login shell, I just changed that to bash. That all looks good. And then for users, we're going to be creating 2 new attributes. First name is going to be display name. This is going to be whatever you type in this field is going to be displayed whenever the user authenticates through Authelia. So it'll say welcome, and then I'm going to put in Bob Ross. But you can put in whatever you want. I've even put in like mom and stuff for like my mother and stuff like that. So you can put in whatever you want. And then for email, this is pretty self-explanatory. This is for if a user wants to reset their passwords, because the way that I create accounts and stuff like that is I'll go ahead and create a temporary password, and then I'll say, hey, you have to create your own password. I don't tell them what the temporary password is. I just say, hey, you have to go and create your own password. So just click on forgot password, and then it's going to be set to whatever this email is. So there, this is Bob Ross's Gmail. We'll go ahead and just set it as that. So Authelia will be sending an email to reset that person's password to this email right here. And that's exactly what we want. So then you don't have to set people's passwords. You can put in whatever you want, and then they can just create their own password. You don't know it. They know that you don't know it, just in case if they're one of the people that uses like the same password for every account or whatever. You're just trying to make it as easy as possible for them. Okay, and then after you're done creating your users, I just created 2 just to show you guys how the rule-based stuff is going to be working. You go ahead and click on your OU groups again, create a child entry, default, click anywhere in here, press G, and then it'll take you to group of names. Click on proceed. And then this is where you're going to have your rule-based groups. And I'll show you how that works here. So I'm going to have a group called admin, and this is just where my admins are going to be. So just click on here. This will take you to a screen to add whatever users you want to your admin group. And it only lets you do 1 at a time. So that's fine. I'll show you how to do 2 later. But that looks good to me. Create object. Oh, no, I forgot to check this. So RDN, just put CN. There we go. Now we have our admin group, and the member of it is admin guy. Imagine that. So if you wanted to add another user, you go ahead and click on where it says member, you click on add value, and then you go ahead and click on another value if you want to. So to show you guys how that works, we can add Bob Ross to that, but we're not actually going to. We just need to add 1 other group. Default, G, group of names. And then this one, I'm just going to type other. These are just my Plex users and stuff like that. You can also type like family, friends if you want to. Name this whatever you want. I'm just going to put other. And then I'm going to add Bob Ross to that because he's my, I don't know, he's my dad or whatever. And I don't want his account to have access to all of my accounts. I keep forgetting to do that. CN. I don't want him to have access to every single one of my accounts. Maybe I only want him to have access to plex.myserver.com and overseer, so then he can request media and stuff like that, right? But I don't want him to have access to like Sonar, Radar, or PHP. You know, I don't want him to have access to my LDAP server. That'd be kind of scary, especially if he's using sort of like a compromised password and then that account gets compromised. You don't want that person to have access to every single one of your websites, right? So that's why we do that. Let's just double check. Yep, admin guy is in the group admin. And then in the other group, we have Bob Ross. Perfect. That's exactly what we want. Okay, now we're just going to be getting into Authelia. This will have changes from the last guide that I did. So let's go ahead and get right into that. We're just going to be adding our rules and stuff like that for users and who can access what website and whatever, and I'll show you guys how to do that. So our domain. This is just your base domain, no subdomain or anything like that. Just your base domain for your website that you're using. Default redirection URL. I set this to my Authelia ingress domain, and I'll show you. And we'll set that up once we get down to that setting. Auth.myserver.com. That's how I keep that. Leave all of this the way that it is. You can change the times and stuff like that all that you want. Totally up to you. But let me get to my other screen. I'm just making sure I match both screens completely together, just so I'm not missing anything, because that would not be good. OpenLDAP EX. I'll go ahead and leave this in the description, but I'm just adding EX on there again because my application name is this and this right here. Okay. And then for base domain, I'm just gonna be adding in equals LDAP, comma. So my server. So your base domain is just this, LDAP, and then my server, and then com, or whatever your LDAP domain is that you set up earlier. Username attribute, UID, additional users, that's our OU users that we set up. That's this right here. That's why I said it's case sensitive, because we're tying that directly with this. There we go. I guess I can move that over here just so I remember. Okay, so users filter. I'm taking this directly from Authelia's website, their documentation. I will leave this in the description, and I'm also going to be leaving the documentation in the description as well. Groups filter, same exact thing. Just a long string that I don't necessarily understand. I'm sure I could break it down if I really tried to. I just copied and pasted this and it works. So I'm not too worried about that. Group name attribute, this is just going to be CN. Mail attribute is going to be mail. And then display name attribute, this changed as well. Usually I had you guys type in UID. This is now display name. And then that is, where is that? Oh, I didn't set it up for that guy. I set it up for Bob Ross though. This is that right here, display name. Okay. And then, so this is that weird login that we did earlier. Let's go ahead and do CN equals admin. And then add another DC equals LDAP, comma, and then my server. And then this is the same exact login that we used to get in here. So whatever you use to log into this, that's exactly what you're going to be placing in here. And then the password, same thing. I just use the password of admin, so that's what I'm going to be placing in there. And I believe that's all you have to do for that. Let me just double check. SMTP provider. This I'm going to be doing. I use gmail.com, so that's what we'll be placing in here. The port is 587. Username is just going to be server at gmail.com, and then your password is whatever your password is. Sender, probably going to be the same as this. And that should be that. Again, I'm just double checking with my other screen just to make sure I have everything, because this is kind of a lot to remember. Sorry guys, I forgot to mention this, but the password section of this has to be an app password. This cannot be just your password that you use to log into your Gmail account. I don't believe it can anyway. And then the way to generate one of those is found here. So sign in with app passwords. So you basically can come in here and then create an app password. It's basically going to be like an API key if you've ever had to use one of those, and then you're just going to be placing that in here. I'll go ahead and leave this in the description as well, just so you guys can go ahead, generate your app passwords, and then place that in here. That's only if you're using Gmail. If you're using a different service, I don't think that you have to do this, but I don't know because I only use Gmail. Okay. So now we're just going to go ahead and go to our default policy and change it to deny. And this is where we're going to be configuring our rules. So let's go to our first rule. I'm going to be adding, I believe, 3 in there. Configure domains. For the first one, we're going to be adding in 2 domains. And then this is going to be a myserver.com and then an asterisk period myserver.com. So this is going to be for my base domain as well as every single one of my subdomains. And you can probably already guess which group this is going to be for. But I'll show you that right here. So you just open up configure subject, click add on there, click group, colon, and then admin. So this is this group right here, which again has admin guy in it. So group colon admin, whatever we're putting in here. So this is basically saying that, so the default policy is to deny everything, right? From every single user on our LDAP server. That's exactly what we want. But for admins, you obviously want whoever is in your admin account on your LDAP server, you want them to have access to everything, right? So the way that you do that is you type in your domain like this and your domain like this with a sub of everything. So then they can access literally anything that they want. And then you can go ahead and leave your network and resources as null, because that does not matter for me right now. And then for the next one, we're going to be adding in 2 again, and then this is going to be plex myserver.com and then overseer.myserver.com. So these are for these 2 domains, because you obviously want those users to have access to Plex, and you want them to have access to Overseer so then they can request media. And then we'll go ahead and put 1-factor on there, because that's just what I like to use. You can put 2-factor or whatever you want. Configure subject, group, colon, and then other. Just so Bob Ross, who is my dad in this scenario, will be able to watch Plex and he'll be able to request media. And I believe that's actually it. Yeah, I did not need 3 rules. Okay. Cool. And then of course you can also do networks and stuff like that too. If you want your entire LAN, you could do something like that to have your whole LAN or whatever to be able to access any of your websites. I'm not going to be doing that though, just in case if like one of my devices gets hacked or something, you know, you never know. Leave that on simple. Actually, we'll be changing this to cluster IP. Click next, and then next, ingress. We will be enabling ingress, and then this is going to be auth.myserver.com. And if you remember from above, our default redirect URL, we're just going to be setting it as this. Okay, and then go ahead and copy this, paste it down here, click our certificate, and then click on next. That all looks good. Looks good to me. Good. Good. And then here's the overview. Then click save. Okay, now there's just one last thing that we need to do, and it's to configure a forward authentication service for Traefik. So let's go ahead and scroll down after you open this configuration. Configure forward auth, click on add, name. Name it something simple, because for every application that you want to enable Authelia protection for, you're going to have to type this in. I like to just use auth. Simple, I know what it is. Then for address, I'm going to leave this in the description. But it's basically just this. As you can see, here is my Authelia web address, and then the local linking applications internally generated name for Authelia with an API verify right here. Kind of confusing, but I'll go ahead and leave that in the comments or in the description. Again, you guys aren't going to have like these EXs and stuff like that in there. I just do because I had to rename my Authelia to something different, right? But that's not all. We have to do 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to do 4 configure auth response headers. First one's going to be user, group, name, and then email. This is all from Authelia's website. I couldn't tell you exactly what each one of these does, to be honest. I'm pretty sure they're self-explanatory. It's just I'm not going to try to describe something that I don't really know, you know. But that's all you have to do here. After you're done with that, you can go ahead and scroll down and then click on save. Okay, so real quick, I just wanted to change up the rules just for this guide. The previous rules that I already had on there that I just showed you is what your end game should look like, but just for the sake of this video, to prove that rules actually work and whatever, I'm going to change it up a little bit and change the group other to only have access to Sonar. And I'm going to be setting up 2 applications with this domain. I'm going to be setting up Jacket and Sonar. So if we're trying to log in as Bob Ross, which is my dad or whatever, he shouldn't have access to Jacket because we're not giving him access to Jacket anywhere on here. It's only Sonar. Okay, so the last thing, I know I've already said that like 20 times, but the actual last configuration change that we need to do is for each application. So for any of these applications that you have ingress enabled on, you're going to want to change a few things to enable it to be protected by Authelia. And the first thing that I like to do, and you don't have to do this part, is I like to change this to cluster IP, just so it's only available internally or by with ingress. So if you do this, you can't access this application anymore by typing in 192.168.0.77:8989 if you change this to cluster IP. You're only going to be accessing this with your domain. That's totally fine with me. That's what I personally like to do whenever I enable ingress on any application. And then you come down to your ingress, configure Traefik middlewares, And then this name right here is exactly the same thing that you're going to be putting when you typed it in Traefik. Remember, I told you to use a shorter name because you're going to be typing this into each application. Well, this is where you're going to be doing that. So I just use Auth, so that's exactly what I'm going to type into this section. You type in whatever you decided to use, and then come down to the bottom and then click Save. Okay, cool. So now that that's finally done, let's go ahead and try to access these websites. The first one I'm going to try out is Sonar EX. So let's type in Bob. That's Bob Ross's username, and then his password. Click sign in, and then bam, it brought me to Sonar. Okay, cool. Let's see if we can access Jacket. Nope, it says forbidden up there. That's exactly what we want to see because we did not give the user Bob Ross access to Jacket. Okay, so let's type in, let's go here, and then wait, let me see. Okay, so I got to log out of Bob Ross, and then see, here's the display name that we set up. So see, it says hi Bob Ross. Let's go ahead and log out. Okay, so now let's try logging in with our admin account, which should have access to Jacket and Sonar. So that is, geez, I'm stupid. Super admin. There we go. Okay, so we have authenticated. Now let's go back here and refresh this page, and then bam. There is our Jacket configuration, and let's see if we have access to Sonar. And it reloaded. We do have access to Sonar. That's exactly what we wanted to do. We officially have rule-based website access working. All right, awesome. So it looks like we have everything working just as planned. That's the Authelia and OpenLDAP setup. If you have any questions or anything like that, if you're having trouble with anything, you can go ahead and go to the Discord, and then there you can also thank this user because thanks to him we're able to get this working because I was too lazy to try to figure it out or anything, and I only had 5 users, so I wasn't really worried about anything like that. But this is definitely really cool, and I seriously appreciate this user. Thank you very much, and also thank you Ornias because he did help with the initial setup of this application as well.